Looks like we're live. Just give it a second though, just in case.
All right. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar this morning. I'm Dr. Frank Costantino, also the chef doctor. I'm the dean for the School of Hospitality Management in the Culinary Institute of New York at Monroe College. Very happy to be here. Missed the webinar last week. I had some scheduling situations, but I realized I'm planning for today's webinar how much I really missed it. So talking to some people around the country that have been kind of tuning in and using this for some culinary classes in the high schools, the suggestion was to do something on the basis of fish cookery. So that's what we're going to dive into this morning. Fish cookery is an area really that tests the skill of a young culinarian, because there's a very small margin of error when we're cooking fish, right? And I do want to say good morning. I know we have some people coming in from around the country, so I'm very happy that you guys are here with us. So the challenges of fish cookery. A, it's a very expensive protein, right? Fish is amongst the most expensive proteins that we can procure for a restaurant or food service operation. So we really want to make sure we treat it properly and cook it properly. Secondly, what makes fish so difficult to cook is the fact that it has very little connective tissue, right? So fish itself is really susceptible to overcooking, to breaking apart, to getting tough if not handled properly. So those are some of the challenges, right? And sometimes we ask, well, how do we know when the fish is cooked, etc.? So we're going to go into that today. And we could have a lot of different techniques, but we're going to highlight a few different techniques for you in our webinar today. We're going to do steaming today. I'm going to show you a kind of interesting way to approach steaming. Steaming is a technique that kind of gets a little bit of a bum rap, because it's kind of a boring technique, right? We use that a lot in low-fat cooking. We steam where we don't want to add any fat, but actually it can be really well done and really flavorful, particularly with seafood. We're going to do a poaching technique for you. We're going to show you how to finish a poaching liquid into a sauce using some sautè salmon today that we got, which we're very excited about. We're also going to take some of that salmon and do a pan roast for you. Okay, show you that poêlée technique, which I know we've hit upon a couple of times in our webinars, and I did a whole actual YouTube video on the poêlée technique. We're going to show you that. We're going to go into a deep fry technique today. We'll show you what we call a bourgeonnette of flounder. And then I'll finish up with the two classic sautés that I think are really staple for anybody's repertoire: how to do a Meuniere and an Amandine. So let's kind of jump in and we'll get started with the papillote. I'm joined by my sons, Jake and Frankie, that are moderating and handling the camera. So if you have any questions, by all means, please post them in the chat and they'll let me know and we'll answer those for you. Okay? Let's get started with papillote. So the steaming process that we're going to do today is a French technique called papillote, right? Papillote means cooked in parchment paper, okay? But there's kind of a special way that we handle the paper. So let me show you how we do that. I have a half sheet of parchment. Okay, you could also use wax paper. You can also use aluminum foil, actually. But we want to show you the classic approach. And we're going to take this parchment, okay, and we're going to cut it, okay, into what's going to be ultimately a heart shape, okay? So let's show you how we do this, okay?
Quick question from Anthony Jose.
Yeah.
What is your favorite technique to cook fish?
I'll tell you the truth, Jose. I love all manners of technique. If it depends upon the species, really. For me, for example, if I got a nice, beautiful piece of salmon, thick piece of salmon, I love the pan roasting technique. Lean fish, I love sauté, I love steam. Again, for me, it's really depending upon the species. But all of the techniques I'm showing you today are amongst my favorites. So, but that's a good question. So we cut a piece of parchment here. Look at that. Right? We cut that into a heart for you, okay? And that's going to become the basis for our papillote, okay? And again, we could use wax paper or other paper for that. So we're going to start with our butter, okay? So we've talked a lot about flavor. I did a whole webinar on capturing flavor in a bottle. I'm going to use some of those flavored oils we made a couple of weeks ago. But I want to spend a moment on butter. We've also talked about butter here in its natural form. We've talked about European butter, the 83% fat, the really rich, delicious tasting butter. But I want to talk today about what we call compound butters, right? So I've taken some regular butter, I softened it in a bowl, okay, like room temperature, not melted, but softened. And then I added some stuff to it, right? I added salt, I added pepper. In this particular one, I added parsley, chive, and tarragon, okay? And I added just a little bit of lemon zest. So now what I've done is I've taken the whole butter, I've softened it, I've added flavor elements to it, and I re-solidified it in a tube, right? In a little round, in a cylinder here. And this sits in my freezer, right? Once it's set, I'll label it, I'll wrap it in plastic wrap, and this is available to me anytime I need it. And for today, we're going to actually use this in our papillote preparation here. So you can see the butter here is now cut into slices. You can see in the cross section here all of the herbs, the chives, the parsley. I'm going to set that right on my parchment paper. Okay? And we're going to use that compound butter again. But for this preparation, one slice of the compound butter. If you don't have compound butter, you can certainly use some whole butter. It works fine. You can also do it with olive oil if you want, if you don't want to use butter at all. But you know I'm a big fan of butter, right? Our expression at the Costantino, New York is more butter, more better, right? We love the butter. Okay? Salt. I'm going to season my fillet. I'm going to add some pepper.
Question coming in from Dominic. Would you season aggressively with the papillote?
Well, that's a good question, Dominic. I do want to season the fish. I didn't go on the underside of the fish with the seasoning because that butter has seasoning in it, right? So we took unsalted butter. We added flavor, but I also added seasoning. So I do want to monitor the amount of seasoning that goes in. So that's a good question. So I have some options here. I can simply fold this up and I'll put it in the oven, but I want to make this a whole package, right? So I'm going to take some julienne vegetable. I have some carrots here which I blanched. We're going to put that on top of the fish, okay? And I also have some zucchini which I did not blanch. Okay, we're trusting that the steaming is going to take care of that for us, okay? So carrots and zucchini. My fish is seasoned and I have my butter, okay? So now I'm going to fold my parchment over and I'm going to begin to seal up this package here. And I do that, move my glasses out of the way so you guys can see. Okay, I do that by simply folding up. It's almost like if I'm making a calzone with pizza dough and I'm folding up the edge. It's a very similar technique here. I want to seal this up, and it's important that we do this correctly because this is a steaming technique, so we want to capture the moisture inside of the package, right? So here, we're going to go all the way around until we get down to the edge here. Okay? We've got this long piece of parchment here. I'm going to keep that fold going. Okay? And this is now ready to go into the oven. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and set this on my baking sheet here. And this piece of fish is about 3.5 ounces. Okay? We want to give this about 8 minutes in the oven. Okay? Because it's got to build up steam. You're going to see, hopefully this is going to puff, and you'll get a sense of this when this is done. So let's go and put that in the oven.
What kind of fish are you using?
This is flounder. Okay?
Which is a flatfish.
Yes, so we can do flounder, we can use sole, we can do very thin slices of salmon. The fish has to be relatively thin because it's going to be steaming, but it's a fast cooking process, right? If it's too thick, it takes too long to cook. So we want to do that. You can also do this with very thin slices of chicken. You can also do this with very thin slices of veal. Even pork works, but it's got to be thin. Okay? The same papillote technique.
What's the definition of papillotes?
And papillote is cooked in parchment paper, okay? Sealed in paper.
It's French?
It is a French technique, yes.
Of course.
Okay. I want to go while we're cooking the fish and papillote, and I set my timer in the oven for that for 8 minutes. So I want to get started on our poaching technique. So we're using moist heat cooking methods here, right? So steaming is a moist heat method. Poaching's a moist heat method. We're also going to do pan roasting. That's not moist, a dry heat method. So we're showing you some different approaches here. The moist heat methods, because you're adding moisture in the cooking process, are a little bit easier to work with in terms of cooking because you're already creating that moist environment. So the fish cooks in the moist environment and hopefully stays moist. However, it can also overcook if we're not careful. So poaching is a great technique, and I want you to think for a minute about these moist techniques we call poaching, simmering, boiling, etc. The visual aspect of these cooking techniques is important. Now we know when we boil a pot of water, right? When that water comes to a boil, there's a lot of movement, right? And that movement can be very destructive, particularly with fish, right? Because the fish has no tissue connecting the muscle fibers, right? So it flakes and breaks apart quickly. When we go to a simmer, there's gentle movement, right? So the simmer's happening about 200 degrees, right? Boiling's happening at 212. So simmering is also a little too aggressive here. So we want to come down to poaching, right? So poaching is going to show the least amount of movement of the liquid in the pan. It's going to be very, very gentle, and it's going to cook the fish completely. In that process, we want to get some flavor. So we're going to use some butter, okay? I'm going to put some butter on the bottom of my little sautoir here, okay? That's going to give me some flavor. I'm also going to use some shallot, okay? Some finely chopped shallot, putting that in the bottom of the pan.
Cold pan?
It's a cold pan right now, okay? I'm going to come in with a little bit of salt right in my pan, and pepper, okay? So this is preparing our pan for cooking technique. I have some beautiful sockeye salmon. This is wild-caught salmon, okay, from Alaska. We picked this up yesterday. And we're going to go ahead and take a skinless portion, a thin portion, and I'm going to sit that right on top of the butter, okay, and the shallot. Seasoning's already in the pan. We're going to save this piece for our pan roast. Okay, and I'm going to go on to a moderate heat here. And I'm going to add some vegetable stock. I don't have any fish stock available, so I'm just going to bring a little bit of vegetable stock in. And I'm bringing this up just until it touches the fish, okay? Right up to the level of the top of the fish, okay? Now, I want to cover this, but I don't want to cover it with a lid, okay? Because I do want some of the steam to escape, because my plan is to use this cooking liquid for a sauce, right? So I have my salmon in the pan. I don't want to put a lid on it, but I do want to cover it. So here, we're going to give you a new term. Some of you already know this, but we're going to make what's called a cartouche, right? Wow, papillote, parchment paper. Right now we have a cartouche, right? So here's what we're doing. I'm making a cone with the folded parchment, okay? I'm going to find the middle of my pot here, right, roughly, it doesn't have to be exact. And then with a pair of scissors, I'm going to go ahead and make a cut. All right, so we're doing cooking today, but it's becoming an arts and crafts class, right? I cut a paper heart for you already. Now I'm cutting what?
Cartouche.
A circle, right? That's our cartouche. And I'm going to set that on top of my fish. I'm going to go ahead and let that poach in the cooking liquid here. Again, we want to stay on a low fire. I'm monitoring here very carefully the movement of the liquid, and I can see the movement of the liquid under the parchment, right? If I put a lid on here, I can't see that, so I don't really know what's going on, but I can see some gentle movement underneath. I'm going to lower my flame a little bit more, and what I'm seeing in my pan here is this just a trickle of movement on the cooking liquid. Now, the coho salmon, right, as a wild-caught salmon, coho salmon is an oily fish, right? It's a fatty fish, but it's also, again, no connective tissue. This will overcook very quickly, so we want to be very careful, right? Gentle fire, paying attention to it. At this point, if I put too much heat under here and it starts to boil, my fish is gonna start to disintegrate, right? And that's not gonna make a good plate presentation. So we're gonna keep our fish poaching here gently, okay? We have our papillote with about 2 minutes left in the oven here. Let's make sure we got this right.
Dominic said he's having competition flashbacks with the cartouche.
Yes.
Is this similar to braising, would you say?
No, it's not braising. That's a good question. So the departure between poaching and braising, I'm going to add just a little more liquid here, now that I've established this. The difference between poaching and braising, there's a preliminary step, right? In the braising, the preliminary step is browning something, right? You're searing, you're getting color, and then you're adding some ingredients to bring in flavor, usually a darker stock. So that's a little more, and it's a longer cooking process. So very different than what we're doing here with the poaching. Okay?
As soon as I asked that, Dom asked the same question, so you got a
Yes.
2 for 1.
Okay. So this is coming along real nice here. Okay? I'm going to take a quick look here at our papillote to see what's going on. Okay? All right, so we can see the parchment is starting to puff slightly, but it's not quite where I want it to be. So I'm going to reset this for another 4 minutes. That'll give us a total cook time of 12 minutes. Okay. Poaching looks good. I like what I'm seeing here. Okay. Maybe another 3-4 minutes on the poach. So what I can smell in the pan here, I can smell the shallot. I have the aroma of the butter. The veg stock, very gentle. We have a little bit of fennel in that stock, so I can smell that coming through. But again, really neutral, mellow flavors. We're not overpowering the fish. We are going to finish this with some curry, but we're going to show some restraint in doing that. We want to bring some flavor, but we don't want to overpower the dish, right? Okay, so while that's happening, a lot of things going on. A lot of dishes for you today. Papillote's in the oven. I got about 3.5 minutes left. Salmon is poaching beautifully here. I'm going to start my pan here heating for the pan-roasted salmon. And here I'm going to go in with some pure olive oil, just a touch, to get the bowl started here. And let's talk about the fish. Now, we tend to use the term, where fish is concerned, pan-roasting a lot, right? We hear that term quite frequently, okay? And sometimes incorrectly, right? In order to do a pan roast, there's one fundamental thing, and that's the fish has to have skin on, right? So we have the skin off on the salmon here for my poach, which looks really good. Okay? Skin is off on the flounder, but for my process here, we are going to put the skin on. We leave the skin on. Now, when you cook with the skin on, you have some challenges, right? The challenge is that when you put the fish in the pan, it's going to curl up, right? So we want to avoid that by making a couple of cuts in the salmon's skin, right? So what I do here, and this is something that I see, again, we really struggle with, even with a really sharp knife, and this is a really sharp knife, skin is hard, right? It's supposed to be, it's protective, right? It protects the fish. So in order to get a good cut, I'm going to squeeze it slightly, and just go ahead and make a slice. And you don't have to do a lot of these, just a couple of slices to break the tension of the skin so that it doesn't curl up, okay? And now we want this to be dry, and we want to season, and this one we're going to season both sides, okay?
Casey Ann asks, seeing a fish stock doesn't take much time. We can also pre-prep it before the initial time of cooking, correct?
Absolutely. Always a good idea to have the stocks ready to go before you start the cooking. We always have stock on hand, chicken and vegetable stock for us here at the house. But a restaurant would typically, a food service would typically have those stocks available, right? Especially if we're menuing a poached salmon or something along those lines, right? So, my pan is preheating, and I'm using cast iron. You know, I'm a big fan of the cast iron, right? So, let's get some heat in here. We seasoned our coho salmon really well. I think I said coho. Did I say coho?
Sockeye.
It's sockeye salmon, my bad. All right. Okay.
Do you have any tips for fish stock? It's something that actually I haven't made before, and just in general, I don't think it's,
Yeah,
everyone talks about chicken stock and veg stock, but fish stock kind of
yeah.
takes a back seat, I think.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so what I want to say about fish, really, we use the term stock. We talk about fish, we use chicken stock, beef stock, fish stock. Really, fish stock is not really a stock, right? The French term for a fish stock is a fumet. And fumet is an essence, right? It's a flavored liquid that has the essence of fish. Whereas chicken stock is more profound chicken flavor, beef stock, more profound beef flavor. Okay? So I think we want to be mindful of the fact that when we're making a fumet, it's a very different process. It's not taking bones, putting them in a pot with water and mirepoix and cooking it. It's very different than that.
It cooks a lot less time. Right?
Yeah, it takes a lot less time, and because in essence you want to extract a lot of flavor before we even add water to it, right? And in a fumet we might use ingredients like white wine, right? Mushroom trimmings, things that are going to give a real, nice dimension of flavor, right? And it cooks very quickly, right? 45 minutes to make a fumet, whereas chicken stock can go a couple hours, beef stock even longer than that, okay?
It's just the structure of the bones, right? How strong
Correct.
the bones are.
Correct. So I think what we're going to do is I'm going to pause this pan roast because you know what? Our papillote is ready to go here. Okay? A couple of things that I can see here. My paper is nice and puffy. Okay? My butter underneath is bubbling, right? So I know I got good heat in the pan. So I think we're going to go ahead and get ready to plate this up. Okay?
Dominic guys, can you brown a fish stock? I was thinking the same question actually. So. Can you brown?
We typically don't do a brown fish stock because it gets really, again, think about what the ultimate use of the stock is, right? We're using it for, cooking fish. So fish has a delicate, mild flavor, slightly sweet flavor. We don't want to overpower it with the stock, which is why we call it a fumet, right? Okay, so on the papillote, we're going to do a plating for you here. Okay. And I have a little bit of Israeli couscous here, which I'm going to plate underneath my fish. This is a warm, I just made this before we went on the air here, before the broadcast started. And toasted couscous is an Israeli couscous. And again, if this is an ingredient that you haven't seen before or worked with, I recommend you take a look at it, right? Because it's really delicious, right? Very easy to cook. Okay, cooks like a rice product. You can find this in the supermarket now. Okay, we toast the couscous dry in a pan. Let it get a little brown, a little nutty. You can see the specks of color in here. And then we add twice as much liquid. It could be veg stock, chicken stock, could be water, right? I cook this with vegetable stock, and I just put a couple sprigs of thyme in the cooking, right? And then I finished it with some olive oil, and I finished it with some herbs. But I want to point out to you that I used some of my garlic thyme olive oil today in there, right? Maybe we made this a couple weeks ago, okay? You can see we're getting a lot of use out of it, right? Okay, so my couscous is down, and we're going to go ahead and take our papillote out of the parchment, and you can see as I'm cutting this, okay, that steam is coming out, right, of the parchment. Looks really good. We're going to take our spoon here, and we're going to nestle this fish right out. And this fish is cooked perfectly. Okay, I set that right on top. Okay, I'm going to take out the rest of this vegetable here, and butter. Put that right over. Okay, and you see we have the complete vegetable and garnish here, and that zucchini did cook beautifully for us. Let's get the rest of that butter out. Now, this would be something that in old style service, right, we might actually bring this to the table side, cut the parchment open and present it to the guests that way. So you get the aromas coming out, and this really smells wonderful. Okay, so that's our first dish. Our fish en papillote with a julienne vegetable over some toasted Israeli couscous. And again, you can see the steam coming out, that fish cooked really well, and we use the compound butter. So we're going to move this to the camera side here. Okay. Terrific. All right. Let's go ahead and get our pan roast started, and then we'll finish up this poach for you. Okay? All right, so we're back on the fire here. Now, I took this poach off the fire. The fish is beautifully cooked and moist, right? So we're going to take our cartouche off the top. I want to hold my salmon warm while I make my sauce. Okay, so let's take that out of the vessel here. Okay, and again, this is really beautiful. Look at that. Nicely cooked. Okay. Going to keep the foil to keep the fish warm, and we're going to start our sauce here. And the sauce is going to start with a technique called reduction. We're going to start to bring our cooking liquid down. It's got the shallots in there, it's got all the good flavor in there. So let's go ahead and bring that down a little bit. Okay, in the meantime, I'm heating up my pan. Okay, do we like the papillote? Did they like the papillote?
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah? Okay. Excellent. All right, so cooking liquid, reducing, my salmon is staying warm, covered. I've got my pan heating again here. Right, I took that off the fire just to get ready to do our papillote. I got to make some decisions about flavor with my cooking liquid here, okay? And today I'm going to use a little bit of curry, okay? This is some toasted curry powder. I'm putting in just a little pinch of the curry in there to bring out some flavor, but also this is going to give us some color because one of the ingredients in curry powder is turmeric. And turmeric, besides being a really healthy spice, and you should do a little research on that, is the main ingredient of curries, right? Of these types of curry powders, right? Okay? All right, so that's reducing the curry immediately. Boy, the smell comes out so nicely. I got some smoke in my pan here, and I'm ready to go in with my fish. And again, I want to make sure that my fish is not going to stick in the pan. Okay, so I'm going in skin side down. All right, and I want that skin to get nice and crisp. Okay. And we're going to let that sit for about a minute or two in the pan with the oil, okay? And then we're going to come back and add some butter. So, I'm reducing my stock here in the pan. My sockeye is doing beautifully here on the skin side and my hot cast iron pan. I want to get some cream in here, right? But I could pour cream in, right? Could heavy cream, it works well. But I'm thinking to myself, you know what, this might be really nice with some coconut, right? I love that flavor of coconut with the curry. I love it in the context of the salmon. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and add some coconut milk, okay, to my cooking liquid here, and we're going to let that reduce, okay? We're going to let that reduce to get our sauce. Okay. Perfect. Now, salmon has been sitting in my pan, and now we're going to go in with our flavor, right? So I'm coming in with some whole butter, and I have a bouquet of herbs here. People ask me all the time, we discard the parsley stems, all the, right? We do a lot of chopped parsley. We get rid of the stems? No. The stems are used in stocks, and here I'm using them in this bouquet with some fresh thyme, okay? We set that right on top of the fish. And we're going to start the filet technique, right? You knew that was coming. Okay, that butter over the fish. Okay, so hot pan, skin side down, well seasoned. I started with a little bit of oil, but I'm finishing with butter. I got that bouquet on top. I'm hitting the butter over it. Now we're going into the oven, okay? And we're going to be about 4 minutes in the oven here on this fish, okay? Oven's at 400 degrees. We set our timer for 4. We let that cook. In the meantime, my cooking liquid is reducing nicely here. So we're going to let that go. Let's go ahead and make our plate for our poached salmon. We're going to go back to a bowl again. This time, I think for my salmon, we're going to go with some beautiful jasmine rice. Just going to bring that up to temp, okay? And I mentioned to you that we were going to come back to that compound butter. And I know a lot of my viewers know the technique of Montel beurre, right? To add butter at the end of a cooking process. And that's great, and that's going to give us a lot of flavor, right? The butter gives us shine. But what about a compound butter at the end, right? Now I'm not only getting the flavor of the butter, but I'm also bringing in lemon, I'm bringing in herbs, I'm bringing a whole mess of stuff in there. And it's one shot, right? It's one additional ingredient that gives me a bunch of different flavors, okay? All right. So let's go ahead, lay down some of our jasmine rice here. Nice and hot. Okay. Underneath. Okay, just a simple cooked jasmine, a little bit of salt. Okay, it's serving as a bed here in our process. This looks really good right now, and now I'm going to go ahead and swirl in that whole compound butter, and I'm off the fire now. And I just want to get that butter to melt in. When we add the whole butter in this process, we don't want to boil it at this point, right? We just want that butter to melt in. Okay? You can see the herbs breaking away. I got the chive in there. I got the parsley. All right, that's wonderful. Okay? And back to our salmon. Still nice and hot. Beautifully cooked. Okay. And we're going to set that right over the top of the rice. Okay. And the poaching liquid with the addition of curry, right? And coconut milk. Let's see. That's really nice. Just a little bit of that. And let's go ahead and put that right over the fish. Okay, that beautiful broth. Just tightened up a little bit, not heavy, right? Remember that sockeye salmon is delicate, yeah? And now we got some of that liquid coming in here, that cooking liquid with the coconut milk, which we're going to use, and really bring that rice to life as well, right? Okay. And let's go ahead and finish out with a little bit of chive. Okay. And that is our sockeye, poached sockeye salmon with the curry coconut milk broth. Okay? And I can see just a drop of, I didn't realize it on the light here, but just a touch here. Okay, perfect.
Can you use something other than coconut milk? Asks Verna.
Heavy cream would work there. If you want to bring some dairy in, it would get a little bit thicker with the heavy cream. Okay? All right. And 4 minutes later, okay, real quick, salmon is done. We may need this again, so let me go ahead and put this on. Okay, so the salmon looks wonderful. That flesh is set beautifully. I'm gonna go on a limb and say that skin is crispy. I can smell the parsley and thyme. Really nice, okay? All right, so let's give this a treatment here as well, okay? You notice here in the process of the roasting, we start in the pan, skin side down, okay? I haven't turned the fish over still, right? I don't want that delicate protein unprotected by the skin to hit that hot pan, right? Because it's going to get dried out on the top. So this is nice and moist, okay? Our bouquet served us really well here. Okay. And I thought what would be nice with this is some smoked tomato and an opportunity for us to use our citrus oil, right? We haven't come to that yet, right? We talked about this a couple weeks ago. This oil was made in one of my webinars. If you haven't caught that, that was our Flavor in a Bottle webinar. We show you how to make these oils. This has been getting some use, but the flavor here is intense now, right? That orange and lemon zest in there has really perfumed that oil, and that's going to come together real nice for us.
Jaden McCarthy asked, could you use something like buttermilk
In the
the curry? I think they're asking.
You could. That would be an interesting take. The buttermilk doesn't give you much fat, right? So you're not getting a whole lot of flavor from the buttermilk. The cream gives you the fat. The coconut milk gives you the fat. So you might have to work a little bit harder on the flavor profile. If you use the buttermilk, I might increase the curry a little bit to bring out some additional flavor from it. Okay? So things like that you might want to consider. But yeah, you absolutely could. Okay. And quite honestly, if you wanted to reduce the cooking liquid and use it as a broth without any added fat to it, that could also work as well. Okay? All right, so I took some tomatoes. I had some beautiful ripe Roma tomatoes, and I smoked them in my smoker, right? Okay? I'm going to go ahead and set these on the bottom of my plate here. I took the seeds out, okay? And I'm just serving them warm here underneath my fish, okay, as an accompaniment. I'm going to go ahead and take some of this beautiful citrus oil, because I think that's going to be a really nice combination here, and put a little bit of my citrus oil over, okay, the tomatoes. And then let's go ahead and take a look at this salmon here and see what we worked on. Oh man, look at this beautiful skin here. Okay, that pan roasting worked out beautifully. Okay. All right. I have the tomatoes, I have that. And here we're going to come in again with a little bit of this flavored oil and just give this a little bit of light on the plate. The flavor. And of course, my go-to on the chive to bring out a little bit of that onion flavor. Okay? So pan roasted sockeye salmon, smoked tomato, that citrus oil, okay, and some fresh chives. All right, I'm going to pause for questions, see if anybody has any questions.
Give him a second if they want to ask anything.
Okay.
Arturo asked earlier, when is school going to reopen?
Hopefully, we are going to be ready to go in the fall, and we are going to be, back on board. That's our game plan. Things are looking that way. We're hopeful things will continue to trend that way. Okay. We're going to go into our deep frying technique. I think you guys are going to enjoy this one. Okay? So, in French, the term goujon is a derivative of a term that refers to a species of small freshwater fish, right? So imagine the term goujon you see when you look in the water, you see these little fish swimming around, they look like minnows. This is the idea behind the goujon. So it's taking some fish fillet and imitating that shape of the fish that swim in the water. So, got a beautiful piece of flounder here, okay? We're going to cut strips from the flounder, okay? And I got 5 strips here. We are going, now I have a breading station, right? Everybody knows our breading station, flour. Okay, let me move this out of the way here a little bit. Flour, egg wash, and breadcrumb, okay? My egg wash is seasoned, my breadcrumb is flavored, so I'm not putting any seasoning on the fish, okay? I'm going into the flour, and then the egg. I'm going into the flour, and then the egg, okay? Just getting a light coating here. Okay, again, the term goujon is a French term derived from the group of fish that are small freshwater fish, okay? So, my breading, egg wash, again, is seasoned with salt. My breadcrumbs are flavored, and I'm using some parsley here, okay? And some Italian seasoning, basil, oregano. I thought that would be an interesting contrast here, okay? My fish comes out. You can see how we cut those into strips, okay? Understanding that whenever we bread something, it gets larger, right? Because the coating takes up space, right? And adds to the thickness of the fish. So, putting our fish in, getting it coated with the breadcrumbs. I have one more piece here, okay? Keeping that one hand dry for the time being, and then we're going to go ahead and shape these. So let's move the egg away. I'm going to do a quick wash. We should all know the breading technique very well, yes? Flour, egg wash, and breadcrumb. The other thing I want you to think about is the flour and the egg are the only consistent elements of this process. What's interchangeable for us is the crumb, okay? We can use breadcrumb. We can use chopped nuts. We can use crushed pretzels. We can use a whole bunch of things that would give us some very interesting outcomes. So now, my strip, I take my fingers and I roll. And I get that elongated fish shape, okay? This is the classic goujonette, right? These are really wonderful little fish sticks here. Okay, make sure we get our coating on real well. Okay.
Dominic asked, in a restaurant situation, would you run the risk of waste of production when buying whole fish?
That's a question you have to ask yourself, right? I think, it comes down to skill, right? A lot of times, we're in the culinary school program and we say, okay, well, let's fabricate a fish, and then the students spend 15 minutes on a fish. Now, how long should it take, right? For a skilled culinarian, a whole fish from hull to fillet, 3-4 minutes, right? If you can do that, then you have a lot of options, right? Whole fish will hold longer than fillets, right? You keep it intact and keep it iced well. Then you get that real fresh fillet when you do fabricate it. So it really becomes an issue of what's my skill set. From a labor standpoint, a lot of restaurants will order fillets. Some will order the fish to be filleted by the fish purveyor, which is also an option, right? And that also works really well. So, again, you have some options there. For me, I'm comfortable with fabrication, so I go ahead and do it, right? I've got my goujonette. I'm going into my basket. My fry's at 350, and we're going to go ahead and fry. Okay? Let's keep this board cleaned up real quick. Okay? Now, we're on the frying stage here. These are very thin strips of fish, so we're looking at seconds, not minutes, right? I'm thinking 90 seconds here. Okay? And I got a good sizzle on there already. Okay? I'm going to go in with my beautiful handmade wooden plate here. Okay? And we want to make sure that we have a pan for our fish once it's fried. Okay? And we want golden brown here, nothing more. Okay? All right, and that's what we have. So we're going to drain that. And let's talk about presentation and garnish here. So we had a little New Orleans style brunch on Sunday, right? We did some crab cakes, We made a spicy remoulade sauce, some poached eggs, etc. So I had some of that remoulade left over, so that's perfect here with the goujonnette of fish. Okay? You saw the frying process here. Okay? And these are done, right? How quick was that? Nice and crispy
Quick pickup, right?
and crunchy. Maybe we want to put a little lemon on there. Let's see. So what are we going to do with this lemon? Well, so let's go ahead and do a quick lemon crown. Okay? I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to cut off the top and bottom. I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to change my grip, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a series of diagonal cuts around the middle of the lemon, what we call the equator, right? If this were a globe, this would be the equator, right? So I'm going around till I get to the other end of the lemon, and therein lies my crown. Let's go ahead and take out these visible seeds here. We don't want the guests to squeeze the seeds on there, okay? And that is my lemon crown. We'll come back to the rest of that lemon in a little while.
It's a very old technique, right?
Very old school technique, but you know what? It's effective, right? If I want to get some lemon on the fish, it's a good way to do it. So, a nice little appetizer portion here for you. Goujonnette, our deep fried flounder fillet.
Genevieve asked about the plate. How long did it take you to make that?
If you go to the Hudson Valley Woodcrafting channel, you can watch me make those plates. It took me a couple of hours, but my video, I think, is about 15 minutes, and you'll see it from start to finish, from the selection of the wood, the whole process. So, Frankie will put a link there, Hudson Valley Woodcrafting, in the comment section.
I don't think it was that long. It took
Very
like an hour.
interesting. Yeah. It didn't take long for us to make those, but they were fun to make. Okay, so we have 4 dishes down. We're doing pretty good here. Let's go ahead and do our final 2 dishes. And here we're going to take advantage of the sautè technique, right? And this, this technique is really a solid standard technique that we use, right, for cooking fish. Now, we are doing a technique called Meuniere. And the Meuniere technique comes from the name that we have in France for the miller, the miller's wife, right? The woman who's married to the guy that mills the flour, okay? So we know we have Meuniere, the important part of the dish is actually the flour, right? So remember when I did the sockeye salmon and the roasted salmon, I said I didn't want to turn the salmon over on the flesh side because I didn't want to dry that side out. I didn't want to get a crust on there, right? I got a crispy skin, but I didn't want to do the flesh side. Here we have no skin on the fish, but we're going to use the flour as a buffer to protect the fish and keep it moist, right? Before we do that, we're going to add our salt and our pepper. And this time I am doing both sides, right? Okay. This is fresh, well-caught flounder fillet. And we're going to go ahead and place that in the flour. And we're going to coat it on both sides. Okay. I have one more piece here for my last technique. We're going to put that on the side for now. Okay. In my pan, we're going to start with some whole butter. Okay. Small saute pan. Want to get that butter melted. Now, this is a very simple recipe, right? It's butter, fish, lemon, and parsley. However, the margin of error is significant because we're cooking with whole butter. The tendency is for the butter to burn. So we want to be careful and we want to listen, right? The butter's sizzling right now, which means the water is evaporating from the butter. Once that sizzle stops, I got to move quickly, right? And in goes my fish at this point, okay? So, butter goes in, the sizzle happens, it stops, and then I'm ready to go ahead and bring my bring my fish into the pan, okay? For this Meuniere style, we need some parsley, we need some lemon, okay? And we need some more whole butter, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and use that butter. Now, it's a good question. I don't think anybody asked the question, but I'm gonna ask the question. Is it a good idea, would it be an enhancement to use the compound butter in place of the whole butter for this dish? Let me ask that question, let me get some feedback.
No.
Let's get some feedback from our audience.
My guess is no, but we'll wait for the audience.
Jake is saying no. Would it be better? I have all that flavor in here, right? I have the herbs, etc., yeah?
No.
Okay? While you're thinking about that, I'm gonna go ahead and turn this fish, and I got a beautiful color on the underside of that, on the underside of that fish. Okay? And we're gonna let that continue to cook. Did anybody answer the question?
Nobody yet. I think it's still on delay, so we'll wait a few more seconds.
Okay. Oh, well, that's what I'm saying. I can't help myself. I see fat in the pan and a piece of protein. You know I'm gonna go ham in there, right? Look at that. Fillet technique. Gorgeous, okay? That fish is just about fully cooked now. Almost there.
Yeses. Two yeses, so they said yes, I said no. So who's right? I don't know.
Okay, that's a good question. So, is it a good idea? The answer is no, right? And the reason it's no is because if you put that butter into a hot pan, now what happens, the ingredients that we use to flavor it are going to start to burn, right? So I want you to think of the compound butter as a finishing butter, okay? It's great in the steaming technique we showed you with the papillon because we're not putting in direct heat on it. But once you're going to go into a hot pan like that, you got to be very careful, okay? Because we don't want to overcook that. Now, I do use that butter in vegetable cookery, right? But I saute my vegetable first, a little bit of butter. Right at the end, I bring my compound butter in, and then I go to my plate, okay?
Also, because you salted the butter, and since you're kind of making a sauce with it,
Yes.
is it also a
Correct.
risk?
That is correct. Okay, so my fish is out, okay? And I'm going to dump out the butter I used to cook it, and I'm putting in some fresh whole butter, okay? I'm going to swirl that butter in the pan. I want that butter to go noisette, right? And watch this technique here, watch this trick, okay? We take our lemon, I take my kitchen towel, my clean kitchen towel, over the lemon. I'm waiting for my butter to just go slightly nutty. Love it. And in goes my lemon juice, just like that. The seeds remain, and now my towel is lemony fresh, right? Okay, and we're ready. This was very simple, very fast. Beautiful sauteed fish, nice crust on there, okay? My brown butter and lemon, and finally my parsley right before it goes to the plate, and it goes over the top, still bubbling. Look at this. Okay?
It's real good.
And to get back to Jose's question, Jose, I actually think this is my favorite technique, right? With one addition, taking this same idea of Meuniere and adding some capers to it, and we call that Grenoble, same technique, right? Just like we're going to do the Amandine with the almonds, but that really is one of my favorite techniques, right? And this is our classic
Not enough space.
Meuniere. I still got another dish on. You got room here?
I can make it work.
Frank, let's move the goujonnette and put the Meuniere in position there.
Here's what we have so far. He doesn't want you to move.
Move the fried one, and let's put the
We'll put the Amandine there.
Amandine there.
That one up there now.
Okay, so we're doing well here. Our last dish is going to be our sole Amandine, okay? So, same technique here. We've got salt and pepper on the fish. And I know many people feel white pepper is the way to go with fish, not black, and that people use, for me, I don't have an issue too much with it. I'm fine with the black pepper on the fish. People get a little, well, it should be white because you can see the pepper. That's fine. What's wrong with seeing the pepper, right? It's pepper, yeah? Okay? Okay, so heating my pan again, and we're going to flour our fish. Okay? And in goes our butter. Okay? Again, same technique. We want to get that butter hot. Sizzling. We're listening for the sound. Once that water boils out of the butter, we're ready to go. Okay? We are putting our fish in. I folded our fillet to make it a little bit neater. Okay? I'm putting it in with the folded side underneath, right? So our presentation side is going to be the side that's not folded, okay? That's just to make it look more attractive. Okay? Our breading station is done. Okay? When you do breading at home, just a couple of points, I always recommend save your flour, put it in a bag and put it in the freezer, and you can reuse that, okay? This piece of fish was slightly bigger than the other, so I added a couple more pieces of butter. Okay? Same technique, saute. And again, I have that protein in the pan. It's automatic for me. I can't help myself, all right? I have to baste as I cook. And let's get another plate out for this. Now, this dish requires almonds, right? Amandine is your classic cooking your dish with the addition of almonds, right? Now, you could also do amandine with vegetables, broccoli, green beans, etc. We didn't have slivered almonds, which I prefer for this dish. But I really do want to show you this dish. I'm using a natural almond, and I just cut the almonds into small slivers, just with my knife. Okay? That looks really good. Okay, that fish, we're cooking that up. Let's cut the heat just a little bit. This pot, the stainless steel, takes heat really quickly. So my nuts here, we just cut into small slivers. It's natural almonds, got the skin on. Again, I don't really have an issue with that. Okay. Basting again, getting that fish nice and cooked. Nice and brown. Okay, now I used a non-stick pan for the first fish. This is not a non-stick pan, but it doesn't matter. Okay, it's perfectly fine. Either way. Okay. And again, you can see quickly, right? 2 to 3 minutes per side. And that fish is really beautifully cooked. Here, let's go right to our plate. I'm going to spill out this spent fat here. That butter, we're going to replace it with some more butter. And in this butter, we're going to add our almonds. And we're going to toast those up a little bit in the butter, right? Let them get a little bit of color. That does two things. It gets the almonds crunchy, but it also gets the butter to taste like the almonds, right? Which is what we're looking for. Okay? Again, that's steaming up nicely. The water's coming out of the butter. The almonds are getting a little bit of color here in the hot fat. But my butter is not quite noisette yet, so we want to make sure we get that nice and brown. The thing with the butter, you can smell when that butter gets that brown color. It has a hazelnut, a nutty aroma, right? And here you get the added benefit of actually having nuts in the dish, right? So that's pretty good. Okay. Lemon again at the end. parsley. So, same technique with the addition of the almonds. Here we go, lemon. Oh, that smells so good. Parsley. Right. And check this out. Meuniere and Amandine.
You could do this with a lot of other fish, right?
Yeah, we have a lot of different fish that we could do Amandine with. Okay, let me just finish that with a little bit of parsley. Fresh parsley as well.
I'm doing it with skate wing later.
Yeah, we can do this with a lot of different species of fish. Works well with trout. Trout's the classic, actually, trout Amandine. Okay, so we did 6 dishes for you. Let's open up to some questions. Anybody has any questions for us?
Let me show all the dishes. Michael said, Michelle Somerville said she's going to attempt this dish later.
Yes, please.
It's really good. It's really easy.
You know how they say when you see something on TV, don't try this at home? No, we want you to try this at home. That's the whole point, right?
It's really good.
Yeah, get yourself some fish. Make sure whatever you get, the fish is nice and dry, right?
No bones.
No bones, right? Filet means no bones, yes. Although, you can also do we've done this with whole trout as well. That's a classic. Cooking the fish on the bone has a place, right? But again, that's specifically some people like to order the fish that way, like a whole rainbow trout, Amandine, really nicely done.
Casey asks, have you ever prepared Jamaican roast fish?
I don't know if that's a specific dish. I'm thinking of a flavor profile. I've done jerk fish before, where I put that into a hot oven, with some jerk seasoning.
Or grilled.
We've grilled fish with jerk seasoning. Yeah, I love that flavor profile. Love the jerk.
Who eats all the demo plates?
The boys eat those. I don't know if they're gonna eat all the fish though. Some of them, I'm not big fish fans. But I can tell you they're all really good.
We'll wait a few more minutes for anyone else.
I'm gonna take a quick drink here.
Why do you think they don't sell whole fish in the markets? Mostly like the H Mart, they had a lot, but a lot of other dishes don't have them.
It's interesting in different communities, right? In a lot of ethnic communities, they want the whole fish, right? Because they take the whole fish home and they utilize the whole thing. But convenience sake, people like the fillet. Many people are not comfortable cutting fish. They don't know how to cook whole fish. They put the fish in the oven. They can they can bake it or whatever, or bread it and fry it. But it's really a convenience thing, right? A lot of people understand that unless you see the whole fish, you don't know how fresh, right, the fish is, because you're looking at things like the scales, the gills, the eyes. They're not cloudy. They're nice and clear. They're nice and clean. It has a good aroma, good smell to it. So a lot of people prefer whole in some markets, but for the most part, people like the convenience of fish that's already been fabricated.
Dominic asks, are you a fan of fish skin?
Yeah, I like the skin. I use the skin on the fish when it's nice and crispy, like we did with the sockeye salmon here. I think that works out real well. You can take the skin off and use it as a garnish, right? It's fun to we do this technique where we take very thin slices of potato, and we put the skin on top of the potatoes. We put in between 2 sheets of parchment, and we bake it in the oven, and we get it nice and crisp, and then we cut it. And it's nice because you see a lot of the fish skins have good color, like red snapper, for example. It's beautiful skin, right? Beautiful tones of coral color, stuff like that. Salmon, not so much, because it's kind of a dark grayish, but rainbow trout, Arctic char, things like that have really interesting skin. Maybe we want to use that element as a garnish, right? Good question.
Michelle, for the Amandine, can I use bass fillet?
Bass is beautiful for the Amandine. One of the things with whatever fillet you choose, it should be skinless as well as boneless, obviously. but you don't want to use the skin on the fish with Amandine, because you do want to take advantage of the flouring on both sides, right?
So Jamaican roast fish, Casey said, is actually seasoned, wrapped in foil, and stuffed with okra, peppers, etc.
That sounds really good. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think it's a particular type of dish. That sounds really, really good. Good. Anything else for us?
I don't see any more questions. Give it a minute or two, see if anyone asks anything.
All right. Well, that was a lot of fun. So we did the empapillon today with the steamed fish with the vegetable julienne. We did the poached salmon, the sockeye salmon skinless, right, with the jasmine rice, and we made that broth with the coconut milk and the cooking liquid from the fish. We did the pan-roasted sockeye salmon. We showed you again, we reinforced that poêlée technique. We served that with some smoked tomato, and we utilized our delicious oil. We did the goujonnette for you of fish, of flounder, breaded and deep fried with a remoulade sauce. And then we showed you the two classic sauté dishes, the Amandine and the classic Meuniere, both with brown butter and lemon. The Amandine with the addition of the almonds and parsley on both. So I really enjoyed doing this food for you today, and I hope you enjoyed watching. Try these dishes at home and let us know how you guys did, okay? Be well, be safe, and we'll see you next time.
And just quickly before we go, will we be having another webinar, and when is the next webinar?
We're probably going to schedule another webinar for next Thursday. We'll let